what do we do as parents when our child manipulates us at bedtime? Well, and maybe we should define manipulation.
I was about to say, define manipulation.
Yeah, manipulation. They throw a fit.
Yeah, they scream,
That's what they do.
"Mom, come back in my room. I need a glass of water. I need to go potty."
Yes, and they've already been potty like 2 minutes ago, and they drank their water 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
We didn't, or they.
Wait, Mom, I have something to tell you. Wait, come back in here, Mom, I have something.
Yes, or
Yeah.
just one more book. Just
one more.
Yeah, one more book. And anything now. Some of it's really cute. I mean, it really is.
It's just an annoying time.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is. I mean, they're like, "Oh, just rub my back one more time," and it kind of hits you. And sometimes they manipulate you well, so that you feel like, "Oh, I'm needed."
Yes.
And so,
yes.
but if you want to do that, again, bedtime's a great way to connect well with your children. It's a great way to build relationships, but sometimes it's annoying, or sometimes it's too much, and sometimes it's taking time. Like, we had a lot of kids. And so if I was spending, 35, 40 minutes with this one kid, then the other kid got gypped.
Right.
So there was some things we had to do with that.
And so I just wanted to say that you need to know if you're being manipulated or if you're really needed. And so you need to know the difference between the two, because if I felt like I was being manipulated, I'd get mad. Like, don't manipulate me anymore. You're taking advantage of me at this point, and this is ridiculous, and I don't have time for this. But if there's really a need there, if I hadn't paid attention to that child enough throughout the day and they needed some extra time at night with me, then I needed to understand that. And okay, I'm gonna need to spend a little extra time with Macy, so Dawn, you've got the other 6, type of situation, or whatever that is. Or even know that. So really, bedtime starts in the day, and it's you invest in your children throughout the day, and they won't be so needy at night.
I think that's really hard for parents. Maybe as I think about that, I'm like, okay, how would I know that? And so, what would you give them?
And what I would like to tell you though is the best way to stop manipulation is to put some boundaries in place where there's no manipulation there. Don did a brilliant thing when our kids were young, and he said, okay, everybody does their 4 things. Yeah. And you didn't argue with the 4 things, you just did the 4 things. And if you got the 4 things done, then you got to read books. And they were brush your teeth, put your jammies on.
In a certain amount of time, usually.
Yeah.
What I would usually do is just say, and then what were the 4? Yeah, brush your teeth, put your jammies on. What were the other ones? I can't remember.
Maybe go potty.
Yeah, go potty. And
maybe clean your room out.
Yeah,
was that one?
Yeah.
I think it changed throughout.
No, actually it was clean your room. It was brush your teeth, put your jammies on, and get in bed. And so, and I would say, hey, and usually I look at the room and see how big of a mess it was. Was it something they could clean up? Is it, I didn't want to set them up for failure, but I'd say, okay, I'm going to come back in 7 minutes. In 7 minutes, I'm going to come back and all this is done. Okay. If I come back in 7 minutes and everything's done, then we'll have more time to read stories, do whatever. And it just got to be this routine that they don't argue with it because that's what you do.
It's the routine, and they don't know any different. It's the routine. So if your child's manipulating, then put a routine in place that they cannot manipulate. And then if they don't get the 7 minutes done, then they only get 1 book read instead of 2, and you don't want them, once again, you don't want them to be devastated as they go to bed. You don't want the consequences to come down hard and heavy at bedtime, but you do want them to know that you're serious.
And the next night they'll get it done.
Yes,
because now they may be out of the parameters one night, but they'll learn quickly that has to happen. And then the other things would be is just to if they are manipulating you, maybe give them something to play with in their bed, or give them something to think about or whatever. Yeah.
So we have a 2-year-old grandson, Truett, who loves to talk, just loves to talk. And so when it's time
all day.
So when it's time to go to bed, we're going to bed, Truett, and he goes, no, I want to talk. I want to visit. I've got things I want to say. And so what Madeline did is she put a Mickey Mouse in his bed and said, you can talk to Mickey Mouse. Talk to Mickey Mouse, but I'm going to go do the dishes and get ready for bed and go to bed. And the other day he goes, I need a girl. And so we put Minnie Mouse in his bed with him. And so he visits with Mickey and Minnie Mouse. And so if they're needing more, but you're not able to give it to them, then fill in the gap with something, a stuffed animal, a toy, something, a fidget spinner, something for them to do for a little while, but so that they can fall asleep.
And what's crazy about him is from the minute he gets up to the minute he winds down and goes to bed, he's talking. He is doing something, which is different than our other 2-year-old grandson. But then he sleeps like 10 hours or 12 hours at a time.
Yeah.
And so every kid, the reason I bring that up is because every kid's different. And how they're manipulating you, there's not like some hard and fast rule. When your kid's manipulating you, you do these things because you got to be able to read them. Everything's different. You got to be able to listen. And like Suzanne says, what happened during the day? Is he traumatized? Did something happen? Do I need to maybe be there a little bit longer? Or, you know what, he's just, pulling on me here. I gotta stand up and be firm for that.
Yeah, and so let's say that just another place where they manipulate is you're rubbing their back for them to help them calm down, and that's great. And so you rub their back, and then you stop and you say, "I'm going to sleep now," or "You're going to sleep now. Goodbye, good night. I love you. Pray for you. Mommy, rub my back a little bit more." Then you can put a boundary in there and say, "Okay, I'm going to rub your back 10 more times." And so you tell them, not they're asking something from you. You can receive it as manipulation, or you can say, "Okay, yes, I will do that for you, but I'm putting the boundary, I'm putting the parameters on it. And so, yes, I will 10 more times, and then I'm not going to anymore. I'm going to leave, and you're going to go to sleep." And then after the 10 times, "No, Mommy, rub it 10 more times." That's what Sebastian says, more. You say, "Not tonight, tomorrow night, I'll rub it 10 more times." Yeah. And so you hold your ground, and then let's say that they yell and scream and they throw a fit. Then you say, "Oh, that's not how we go to sleep. That's not pleasant. That's not fun for you. That's not fun for me. That's not a blessing. Dear Jesus, please help, baby Macy go to sleep. Help her have sweet dreams. Now talk to your bear. I'm going to leave." And
all right, last question, you relating to that. So you leave, we leave, I leave, parent leaves, whatever.
Right.
Kid is throwing a fit and they're screaming and they don't stop screaming and it keeps going and going and going. What does the parent do? Do they leave them just screaming in there? Do they go back in? What's your thoughts?
So you have to know your child, but I would do the 1-3-5 rule, where after 1 minute you go in and you say, "Hey, baby, I love you so much, and I am so glad that you're in my life. It is time for you to go to sleep now. God, whatever you want to say. God set the sun at night. The sun is sleeping. It's time for you to go to sleep too. Lay down and go to sleep." And then you walk out, and they're still screaming. So in 3 minutes you come back. You can say the exact same thing if you want to, so you're not manipulative. "I love you so much. I'm so glad it's nighttime. It's time to go. The sun is asleep. You need to be asleep." And then 5 minutes later you come back, and then if they're still screaming after 5 minutes, then 10 minutes later, and so you back it off. And so you will have, if your child is manipulating you at a very high level and has been for a while, then you're having to break habits down. You might have to have 3 nights of that 1-3-5-10, where you're weaning them from learning that from the habit that they've learned of manipulating them. But if it's just a 1-night thing every once in a while, then it probably won't even get to the 10 minutes.
And I would say as we wrap this up is that look at, is it an instance or is it a trend?
Yeah.
Is the child throwing a fit every single night? Well, there's, you got to set more boundaries. If it's one night and it's uncharacteristic of them, or if it's had happened in 8 days and all of a sudden, chances are something's happened.
They need
and you might say, and they may not be able to, they might be 2 or 3 years old and not be able to articulate it. So maybe that night is just to wrap them up and just say, "Hey, I love you." Maybe that physical touch. Maybe they haven't gotten enough physical touch. Yeah. Something that's going to be different, and just realize that it's an instance. It's not something that's a trend, and so you may need to counter it a different way than if they do it every night. So there you go with. What happens if our child is manipulating us at bedtime? It happens to the best of us. It's happened to every parent
you
I know.
You manipulated as a child, so don't judge.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully we helped you try to get over some of those humps.